Let's go.
Let's go indeed. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the hell time it is for you. And welcome to another episode of First Period. It's your boy F. That. You can see we're all dressed up for the broadcast. SPL starts today at 1 p.m. and I do have the first cast, so we're already here. Normally the show goes from 10 to 12. But there's two very important things going on right now that will cause me to have an abbreviated show. Essentially, why is my... Oh, there's still music. That's annoying. Essentially, like I said, I have the first go. I have the first go. I have the first broadcast on our SPL. To control 4 months in a row. Thank you so much. So I'll be doing that. Yeah, I still can't get fucking chat to work, and I don't know why. So I'll be doing that. So there's that. And also, a couple of my friends are doing something very, very nice right now, and they're on their last stretch, pretty much. So I want to be able to celebrate that. It's a 24-hour stream going the way of Kiki Bobiki. So there's that. Mr. Tim gives me... Yeah, I'm not going to click on this at all. Sorry, bud. So Kiki Bobiki, that's the stream you want to check out for their 24-hour stream. So far, we've done a lot of work. I went over there last night. If you guys aren't aware of what's going on, Allied, unfortunately, got a little sick, and we will be trying to help him out. And like I said, it's the last 2 hours over at Kiki's channel. They are streaming... They're ending up their 24-hour stream, and we've got just south of $25,000, $24,338 and 21 cents. So there has been a lot of love in the community. And there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We had an abbreviated show, probably definitely no Q&A, and probably about just an hour. So why don't we start off things right and start talking about last week's esports, shall we? We take a look at week number 4. As far as all of the games are concerned, and week 4 is about to be over. We have Sunday and Monday, but neither here nor there. Denial versus LG. LG took 2-0. Hooray. Nobody was really surprised. I went over some of this stuff last week. Where is the beginning of week 5? So Denial 2 over Envy, I think, was a little bit more surprising. I think Denial 2-0 above Envy was a little bit more surprising. I don't know if many people really anticipated Denial going to be that strong, but the biggest deal about this match was the musical junglers. You had Mask previously on Envy, and now he's on Denial, and then you had Eonic play for Envy this time around. Things went very swimmingly in Denial's favor, and I think that a lot of it can be looked at if you want to point at something specific. A lot of that can be looked at what's going on with my man's Drelo, or not what's going on, but what he said, rather. Drelo tweeted out the other day, and of course I can't find it. But he basically said, a player will never perform well in the SPL if he cannot trust his team or is afraid of his teammates. And then we had Mask come on the broadcast after their wins. We had Mask come on the broadcast after their wins. And he mentioned that, on Envy, people would yell at him if he got things wrong or whatever, and I don't necessarily think there's a problem with that. Different teams work in different ways, and if that's the way Envy works, then that's totally fucking fine. I don't think that's a problem by nature, but it may be a problem for that player specifically. So that is what it's all about. It's about finding the correct culture for you and your friends, right? I mean, that's why Omega left Cloud9 originally, joined up with Eager, and now is finally on Envy, because he just wasn't enjoying the culture of the squad. And culture, when it comes down to being able to perform and being a part of something larger than you, is very important. And so for Mask, I think he's just a lot more comfortable on Denial. Don't forget that was the team that he originally was slated for. He had sort of planned on playing on that show, on that team. So we'll I think that's a step in the right direction. I had predicted Denial to be a top 3 team earlier on in the season, and that was with Mask in the jungle, not with anybody else. And now that they have Mask back, will they be a top 3 team? I think there's a larger conversation, and I don't think it's as simple as, well, we got our OG jungler back, we're the best in the world now. But I think that Denial is definitely in a better spot with Mask than they were previously. And to that extent, I think Denial is in a better place than Envy with Mask. Not because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just simply because Mask would prefer playing with Denial, and sometimes that's what it's all about. And before you fucking haters get all crazy about Envy being toxic and blah blah blah, and the first comment I saw, on the Reddit was directed at Omega, and I very rarely engage with haters. Or like when people engage with haters, but if it's done right, I think it's absolutely hilarious. And in this case, I think Omega did it absolutely correct. Let's take a look at one of the tweets that Omega put out after he saw the Reddit thread that everybody was taunting him on. He said, "To all you memeing morons, high-res TV chat spammers, and Reddit fuckboys, I'm finally happy with the Envy roster and excited to grow together." And then 5 minutes later, in before I'm kicked. But I really like this. I thought it was very funny. Not only was it funny in the way that he went about it, but it also just telling you, hey, what's up? I'm happy. Because a lot of people were accusing Omega for jumping ship and trying to find the good team and all this nonsense, right? A lot of people were just accusing Omega of being a front runner, I don't know, whatever word you want to call it, in the sense that my team is losing, so I'm going to leave. That was what a lot of people on the Reddit were saying. And for all of those same people are going to embrace what everybody has to say about Mask, which is kind of hilarious. For all the people out there that will defend Mask and say, it's about the culture, and just regurgitate what I say, or maybe put it in your own way. It's about the culture. It's about the team coming together. You're never going to succeed if you don't like your surroundings. But when it comes to Omega, he's only leaving teams because he wants to win. Like, that's nonsense. In the same vein that Mask is off of Denial, Mask is on Denial and is performing better, Omega was searching for a team that he would be able to enjoy the culture of and get better. You know, you mentioned Cloud9. They had different, I wouldn't say work ethics, but similar to Divios in the TSM situation. There was just a disconnect as far as the culture and how everything works and how the people are tied together. And that is super, super, super important for success, whether it's whatever on earth you're doing. You need to be able to enjoy your time, or at the very least, feel okay about your time. You know? So his time on all the various teams, Eager was short-lived. I mean, the team blew up in general. Nobody's the same on that team with the exception of Zapman, right? So Eager blew up in general. But at the end of the day, I mean, Omega just wasn't happy living in that. So there's just because you're on the winning side or the losing side, it doesn't really matter. It's all about finding finding the people to surround yourself with, to put yourself best in the position for greatness and success. And I mean, if you've read The Secret or turned on daytime television or have ever thought about, hanging out with somebody a little bit on the hippie scale, you get this idea of positivity, this idea of the law of attraction, right? Where you go ahead and you just think real positive thoughts and they just come to you. And that's bullshit. But the idea of it is rooted in a very strong sense of understanding that people will succeed and people will have a positive future if they believe in themselves and their future. And it's obviously easy to do that in a positive environment. So, is it all about just thinking about good things and letting them come to you? No. But the sunny disposition that you assume after being a part of such a good team or a positive environment is very important to maintaining that success for yourself individually or otherwise. And so I really respect what Omega does. I really respect that Omega was looking for a team to find and has found it. And I think that's very important. I think that's very, very important. And in that sense, I think it's very important as far as our commentary team. We've had some changes with our commentary team. We've definitely had some changes with our commentary team over the past year. Bart, obviously, left first and foremost in January, and his was more of there was more fanfare around Bart's departure. He had found another gig and opted for that, and just for what it's worth, insight. Bart and I are still very good friends. I talk to him. Well, we meme on Twitter on the daily, but but I still talk to him for real. So there's that. And before I get into commentary, I do want to go over one roster change that actually happened. Omega didn't happen, despite what a lot of the haters may want to say. But Mr. Mackey definitely did change. Mr. Mackey and Dare to Care have swapped. Mr. Mackey is now support for Eager, and Dare to Care is no longer a part of the team. So they've basically swapped. And this might come as a shock to everyone, myself included. Mr. Mackey, my watch is wrong. I'm sitting here looking at my watch it's not 5 to 9. Did I start? What the hell? I don't know. But so Allegiance have had that roster change, and Dare to Care, despite his recent success, is not going to be on the team anymore. Now, whether that was his choice or the team's choice, I have really yet to hear. I'm going to reach out to the Allegiance guys. Usually I do that before first period, but I was a little bit busy with Kiki's stream, so there's that. But as far as Allegiance is concerned, Dare to Care out, Mr. Mackey in. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Mr. Mackey, a crash course on the young man, he was a coach / sub for Cloud9. It's been brought into question how much coaching the homie actually did, but he did play for Cloud9. He is a solo lane by default, not necessarily a support, but he's been playing a lot of support lately. So there's that. Oceans has been very comfortable playing with Mackey in the past. Oceans didn't like playing with Dare. I haven't heard that. I have heard that Mackey just preferred playing with what's it called? Or that Oceans just prefers playing with Mackey. Going to what I was saying, being in an environment that you enjoy and love is very important. If you get up every day and you hate your job, you're probably going to be worse at it than somebody that gets up every day smiling and having rainbows come out of their ass because they're really excited to sit in that cubicle and pound out TPS reports, right? It's so important, and it sounds really hippie and it sounds really lame, but it's actually a very big part of what will make you succeed in life is finding something that you love, or at least putting yourself in a position to love your situation. And Dare to Care was doing phenomenally. He was very, very good in the support role. In the jungle, he obviously showed his struggles, and there was obviously an issue with that. But in moving over to the support role, he worked out real well. He worked out real well. That was where he found most of his success, in my opinion. He wound up winning. He wound up winning very much in the support role for Cognitive Gaming. So when it comes to Dare to Care, I think that's a player that you have to point to and say, all right, you've done very well. But teams, much like a banana, can rot from the inside out before you see anything. You ever look at a banana and it looks maybe a little bit brown, but it's totally fine, and then you go pick it up and it just feels like yogurt in a banana casing? That's not going to happen to teams where things look fine on the outside. I haven't spoken to the Allegiance guys, so maybe everything was all copacetic, or maybe it was one of the most toxic environments ever. Either way, Dare to Care, despite performing very well, there was a need from the inside of the team to go ahead and change things up. It's been brought up that Dare didn't like the role, so of course he's not going to do as well as he can, and so there's that. But at the end of the day, the switch to Mackey will be, I believe, and maybe it's a walrus type situation where homie has just always dropped the ball in the SPL. And then when he comes on the stage recently, he like actually plays really well. Shouts to Walrus actually doing stuff on Randozos. But, maybe it's a Walrus situation. But previously, in the past, once upon a time, we saw Mackie play in the SPL. He played solo lane, and he kind of got doo-dooed on. That was at a LAN. Mackie's a good player. Is he a great player? That leaves a lot to be answered. But Mackie and Oceans, again, talking about synergy, talking about all the other things that come with the game outside of just pushing your buttons. I think there's a conversation to be had about Mackie and Oceans getting along really well. I don't know what the internals of Allegiance are like. I really don't. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But the internals are very important. It's important to go. What are you talking about Fafnir for? We're not even done designing that. Tufts on the new god Fafnir. Y'all gotta stop fucking with your stupid goddamn data mining. That stuff is always wrong and it's really lame. But anyway, it's about forging that positive environment, and not necessarily positive environment in that everybody is positive, but that sort of environment, that bodes well for the future of the team, whether that is positivity, whether that is calculated negativity, whether that's constructive criticism, whether that's no criticism, and relying on the people individually to better themselves. I think there's a lot of different approaches, and talking about coming into our commentary staff, it is very. I've experienced a couple of different of those environments, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So earlier in the year, like I said, we said goodbye to Bardo. Bart was no longer a part of our commentary team. He found another job over at YouTube Gaming, and he's crushing it there. Shouts to my man Bart. He's a lot of fun. And he left, and once upon a time Bart was our leader. He was head commentary or lead of talent, or Esports czar, whatever you want to call it. And Bardo was very hands-off for the most part. Why is Kret sending me a message that's not coming up? I don't know. But Bart was very hands-off with his approach. There wasn't a lot of hands-on stuff. Raven, this is a Brooks Brothers suit. I only have one Brooks Brothers shirt. It's the white shirt. And this is a grenadine tie from thetiebar.com. But, so Bart was very hands-off in the sense that unless you did something very egregious, he would go ahead and just sort of let you do you and do your thing. Bart was biased, though. Pixie, come on. I love you. Don't be stupid. But Bart was very hands-off in what he did. If you went up there and you said, fuck this team, well, he'd be like, hey, you can't curse. Or if there was something really sticking out, Bart would come up and say, hey, let's talk about X, Y, Z. But when it comes down to individual situations for getting better, we would just get off the desk and he'd be like, hey, how do you feel about that? And I'd go, all right, well, you got something to think about, right? He never really was like, all right, at the end of that cast, sweet, you overused your pronouns. Who is they? Why are you saying that so often? You want to watch out of your descriptors. You use the same one a couple of times. Like, he would never really be that hands-on. And that was good for some people. I don't like, I work very well. I'm like a ditto. I'm amorphous. I can do different things. But so when that works in certain ways, and I enjoyed that because I do a lot of independent study anyway, and so I'm able to really evaluate myself and look at what's right and look at what's wrong, and able to like adjust and all of that fun stuff. And for the most part, our commentary staff did as well. But as we moved into a world of Adonis being the head caster and Brandon being a little bit more vocal, that was a very interesting turnaround, and I think that helped us as a whole a little bit more. It was very interesting because, like I said, Adonis is and was our lead caster. It was Brandon was never our lead caster, our lead talent. Brandon didn't really come into the office too often. He was strictly just a caster. I Now it's season 3. All of our casters are kind of strictly just casters, but we also come in the office for various meetings, and like we do have the ear of the designers when it comes down to the initial design brainstorms. We'll be invited to those meetings, and as far as a Monday through Friday, we used to have something like that where we would do a lot of the other things around the office, but now it's pretty much just a strictly Thursday through Monday with a few things here and there. And when it came down to our like commentary or change and how that works out, Brandon was very hands on. With Bart out of the picture, I think he sort of saw the reason to really step up and be a little bit more vocal with just overall talent level, not necessarily talent level, but execution level of the talent staff. And I think that I was extremely appreciative of it. And honestly, I don't want to speak for my co-casters, but I think they were as well. And this is sort of what I'm talking about, is people can be very, very quick to judge when they see an environment that they don't quite understand. And like obviously you know how Brandon works, and for totally what it's worth, Brandon's help behind the scenes wasn't as harsh as you've seen on stream, right? We didn't get off of a cast and he goes, "Nah, it was terrible. What the fuck are you doing?" Like, that's not the case. But Brandon is very much similar to me in the sense that he's a blunt dude that wants you to fix what you're screwing up, not because he thinks lowly of you, but because he thinks highly of you and wishes you to succeed. Brandon comes from the idea that holding somebody's hand doesn't help them really do much of anything. Brandon comes from the mindset of, you teach a man, you give a man a fish. Fuck you, I would never give a man a fish. That's mine and he's not getting it for free. But you teach a man to fish and he will be fed for life. And that's something that I really respect about Brandon. I've always really respected that about Brandon. And I having him more vocal on the commentary staff was super, super fun. And I really and truly think that I improved in this short segment from the beginning, from this like 6-7 weeks stretch from right before SPL when we started practice casting and talking about it to the SPL. I have really been just lucky to have Brandon on my team. And people are going to sit from a distance and say, lucky to have Brandon. And that just proves to me that A, you don't understand either Brandon, or B, you don't understand the bigger picture of how people can help other people in different ways, in different shapes. Not everybody has to be Mahatma Gandhi or Barney to really elicit a positive feeling or a positive environment. And I think that's very important to understand where I'm going with this. Now, Brandon has one of the biggest things I actually and I think this is very fun is Brandon. We started the season off on an interesting foot. I've always been open, and Brandon is obviously quite closed. And we had a personal conversation, and I won't divulge the details of the conversation. But it was an aggressive conversation from Brandon's point of view. And it was the first meeting that we had as a commentary staff without Bart. It was the first commentary meeting that we had without that, without anyone else. And it was the first commentary meeting that we had after Worlds. And Brandon said something to me that really resonated with me. And like I said, I don't want to go into details out of respect for Brandon, just because he's a very, I consider him a good friend of mine. And he said something to me that was completely wrong, completely incorrect. Who is the new head of talent? Kevin's been the head of talent since Bart left. And it hasn't changed with DM Brandon leaving. So he said something to me that I vehemently disagreed with. I thought he was completely wrong, and it was almost personally insulting. In fact, it was personally insulting. Now, do I believe that Brandon 100% believed in what he said? Now, there's two schools of thought. I think that Brandon always says what he means. But when he approached me or said what he said during the meeting, that resonated me to my very core. In the moment, it felt like very personal, like an attack. But in the long run, in retrospect, I can almost look at it and say, that's just Brandon's brand of eliciting a response. Brandon understands that the best way to teach a man a lesson is to have the man discover it on himself. And I think he instilled that in me. I have always been about I've always been about personal improvement, and I've always been about improving my craft, commentary specifically. I'm extremely passionate about what it is. And guys, just so you know, you guys are talking in my chat about my friend, and I really just don't appreciate you calling him a dickhead. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not going to time you out just yet because I didn't warn you. But the whole idea of Brandon's a good caster, but he's a bad streamer. Now, if you say something like that, fine. But don't come at my friends and just blatantly insult them. Brandon's a friend of mine, and I mean that. Now, Mentor is pushing it. I wouldn't say I looked up to Brandon necessarily, but as an equal, Brandon was very important in my personal journey on this commentary shit. Like I said, he made me think. He said something during a meeting, and he made me think a couple of times. And I had a set game plan laid out anyway, but he made me sort of like pick that up and go for it, you know. And so there's that sort of idea of he maybe jump started or whatnot, but the idea that I already had, the plan that I had in mind, he sort of pushed forward and got me to go for it. So I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think the best way to really represent what Brandon is about is multiple anecdotes about him helping somebody by not helping them. And when it comes down to it, I think that's what happened with Brandon's situation here on stream. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the what, but there's people in chat that don't know, and so I'll mention it. Just strictly the facts. Brandon was on stream. Somebody gave him a message saying that they had tried to commit suicide in the past and that Brandon had helped them. And Brandon essentially said, no, fuck you. I didn't help you. You helped yourself. Now, some of the things that Brandon said beforehand, were a little bit, they were worded incorrectly, and Brandon's the first one to acknowledge that fact. He put out after that incident, he put out multiple publications, whether it was on Twitter or Twitlonger or even on stream and on YouTube, saying like, hey, my bad. Like, it's almost impossible to describe Brandon without using offensive words. Then get the fuck out of my chat. This is a very sensitive subject to me, and I expect you guys, if you're going to accuse Brandon of not having tact, I expect you guys to have tact as well, because I see a lot of hypocrites on Reddit and in Twitch chat. But in any event, what I was saying was, Brandon said a lot of things that may or may not have been okay to say. And Brandon understands that. In fact, his entire intention was misconstrued. He said some really intense things, but at the end of it, he wanted to say, importantly, that nobody gets you through things like depression outside of yourself. You can look towards a television program, or you can look towards a musician, or you can look towards a streamer, or you can look towards a book. But at the end of the day, if you're going through something tough, that's depression or suicidal thoughts or suicidal tendencies, first of all, please get help if you're out there in that situation right now. But if you've gotten over that situation, myself included, I have been in some dark ass times. You get over that stuff yourself. You get over that stuff yourself. Absolutely. Do you have people to help you along the way? Yes. But the idea that somebody else is responsible for the great job you've done by pulling yourself out of the gutter is completely incorrect. It's completely incorrect. Everyone is their own ladder. And I think that's the picture that Brandon was trying to paint. And, the fact that Brandon said something, it's really upsetting to me that Brandon worded it the way he did, because like I said, he's a smart man, he speaks for a living, and he knows that he misspoke. But in this sense, it was an egregious mistake, and, he had to step away he decided to step away from his position. And that's upsetting to me. Just because pure selfishly, I loved casting with Brandon. Just as far as how it affects me, I loved casting with Brandon. Brandon and I have a lot of fun because, and I say this all the time, like when somebody asked me, what's the workload like with just 3 casters? And I said, I don't hold people to the same standard that I hold myself, because I am so incredibly involved emotionally, physically, and all sorts of the way. with Smite. I love the SPL. I love the SPL, and I would cast from noon to midnight every single day. And, you know, if my co-casters or a player or anybody else out there I wouldn't hold it against them. I am willing to go above and beyond, and I'm totally very excited about that. And Brandon was the same. Hunzen, shut the fuck up, dude. And Brandon was the same in the sense that he and I, like, what you heard on cast was what you didn't hear in the back room. And that's really fun. One of the things that I pride myself on being, is on being very, very real. And I am always how I am off screen as I am on screen. I think that that's very important to me. And of course, like, you know, if I'm on a broadcast, my vocabulary, my vernacular, my syntax, my accent might change a little bit because I need to be a little bit more professional. And, you know, I'm not going to say like how I say things in day-to-day speech, right? But my message is the same, and my person is the same, and my inside is the same. That's what it's all about. That's what it's about. I will never misrepresent myself. And Brandon's the same way. I'm never going to go on stream and say something that I don't agree with because I want to make a player famous. I'm never going to go on stream and tear somebody apart because I want to get this cool persona as the negative guy. I'm never going to go on stream and be that guy to be something that I'm not. And Brandon and I really clicked on that level because we would have arguments on broadcast, and that was a lot of fun. We would have fights, not fights, but we would have disagreements on broadcast, and that was a lot of fun because we both really respect each other's opinions. We both really respect each other's dedication to the craft. We know that there's work being put on the other side, so when it comes down to it, and he goes, "Oh, you know, I think that Dumor Bonchanga is the only way to play her," and I'm like, nah, you know what? I think she's a mage warrior. I think she's a battle mage. And let's see where that goes. And we'll have a conversation about that. And that was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed that. And I think that brought out some of the best commentary that the SPL has seen, at the risk of sounding arrogant. I think that was that style, not necessarily F. and Brandon, but that style of conversation was something that we were reaching for the entirety of season 2. And I think we sort of like, Brandon and I kind of did it. So I really enjoyed it. I really liked that. And I think that conversational style, that ability to disagree with somebody you really respect is when you really start to like explore the nooks and crannies of somebody's brain. And that was a lot of fun for commentary. So with Brandon leaving, you know, you got to look at the different situations, and Brandon has chosen to leave. And yes, Brandon will no longer be a part of the high res broadcasts. He's not going to be an SPL caster. He's not going to be on the spring stuff. He's just going to be a streamer in his own right. So I mean, it's fine to be negative about DM. It's fine to be negative about anything as long as you have an informed opinion. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of people just don't come with an informed opinion. So it's a little bit curious. Thank you so much for the sub love. You guys keep it going each and every week. So just to pause real quick, Kiki has made it to $25,000 raising for Allied. Allied is a great friend, and you know, he has also pretty much left the commentary staff. When he gets better, he of course will be. I wouldn't even say invited back. He still has a home in the office, and still has a home on the desk. And when he gets better, he will be a commentator for us again. But right now, Allied needs our help. Kiki, his friend and teammate, is doing a charity drive, and we've raised $25,000. It was a 24-hour stream. I was over there last night with some other people, and there are a lot of people out there that just want to come together and make this a positive experience. So, Allied has gastrointestinal cancer. It's rough. And Allied and I really vibed well because of sort of the approach that we take to life, and knowing that Allied's going to bring that into his battle with cancer is very important to me. Allied has always really been a guy to smile and try to find the sun in between the clouds, and that's very important. And I think that Allied has been one of the least polarizing people in the community. Completely. We go from Brandon, who's one of the most polarizing people in the community, to Allied, who's one of the least polarizing people in the community. Very, very, very few people dislike Allied. In fact, I don't really know. I just don't even, I can't even think of one person that doesn't like Allied, to be honest with you. He's just always a generally positive person. And with that said, again, I'm not a fan of fake people. Allied will be the dude to put you on blast. Allied will be the dude to bring up negativity if it's real. But there's no reason for him to go out and find it. He's always been a very positive person. So, Svensson, yeah. Gandhi made that joke. Allied plays well from behind, so he's going to beat cancer. And you know, I really believe that. I've known Allied for about 3 years now, and in those 3 years, Allied has been a very, just a big part of what I've done in Smite. Allied always stays up mad late, and he streams into the wee hours of the morning. And first period has been a spot now where high-res employees and pros come in, and everybody just sort of hangs out, right? We see a lot of different people here, and a lot of different ideas, and a lot of different minds cross paths, and that's why I'm very lax with the ban button here. Because there's so many different, it's a meeting of the minds. There's so many different mindsets. There's so many different opinions. There's so many different viewpoints. There's so many different ideas. And all of that is because of you guys. All of that is because of, we have such a varied and well split up chat here. And somebody's got to make the first step, you know? When I was streaming, this show is the second iteration. This is season 2, essentially, in 3 years. The first season, I would stream to like 10 people, 15 people, and when I got lucky, I'd hit 50, maybe 60. I remember going crazy when I had 70 viewers. And I say when I get lucky, but honestly, Allied was a big part of that. Hosting wasn't invented yet on the side of Twitch, but Allied would end his stream at like 8 in the morning and then show up on the stream and be like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And then, you know, Allied would tweet about it. And this is before I knew Allied. This is before Allied was a member of my life, you know? And so he just recognized the homie doing the work, and he was like, "Hey, somebody's talking about Smite. I think that's cool. I like this guy. I'm going to show him some love." And you know, that's important to me as somebody that has worked in this. So Allied has been a part of my professional life, helping me out in that regard, and also my personal life. You know, he's been able to. I feel like everybody has a story about Allied, whether it's direct or off to the side, about Allied inspiring them one way or another. Chapo has been one of the fastest growing streamers I've ever seen, just because of his personality, how different he is, his willingness to be real on camera. And he said himself that Allied was a big part of what made him step up and embrace the streaming thing. And now homie can drive around in a Mustang, giving a finger to all his ex-girlfriends, right? Like, Allied, I said this on the broadcast the other day at the SPL, and goddamn, I'll say it again. You can ask virtually any pro. You can ask almost any person in the SPL or around it, and they will have a positive story about Allied. And I think that type of person is incredibly rare. That's not the case with me. A lot of people got love for me and their interactions with me. That's totally true. But I'm not always a nice guy. Shouts to my man Richard. He's a professional hater. I came at his life the other day. It was about style. It wasn't really hard. But like, I'll come at you. You know, I'm not always positive. Allied in general is generally positive. And even when he comes after you, he's like, he makes you laugh. And then Allied puts you in a spot where when Allied comes at you, you think about it. Allied comes at you and he goes, yo, did you get cracking in the brain, fam? Like, think about what you're talking about. Study it. Actually look up what you're talking about. And then try again. And you're like, maybe I should think about what I'm talking about. Study it. Inform myself. And then try again. You know? So when it comes down to it, a lot of us should take something from Allied. A lot of us should take something for Allied. Or take something from Allied. And embrace whether it's the positivity or just everything about Allied. Take a little bit of him into yourself. A lot of people always compliment me, or whether it's a compliment or not, people always bring up the fact that I'm able to, without being too fucking annoying about it, I'm able to find a silver lining most of the time. I don't lie. I'm always honest. But that honesty is usually paired with a smile because that's just how I live my life. And a lot of that comes from my father. A lot of that comes from my father. My father died when I was like 13, 14. I was 14 years old. And I'll never forget this. He was a diabetic. He had a lot of medical issues. And long story short, homie wound up losing his leg. They amputated his leg. So he had one leg. Now my dad, he wasn't exactly a marathon runner, but he coached my baseball team. He coached my lacrosse team. You know, we were always like driving around. He was a big car dude, and they amputated his right leg, so his driving leg, right? And like for a dude that likes to play sports, drive around, be active, and walk, that blows. Right? That totally blows. That's going to change your life. That's going to take your hobbies and it's going to shoot him in the butt, right? My man's, my pops, fucking God rest his soul. My pops came out of surgery the day they amputated his leg. And, you know, I'm sitting there. I'm fucking like 7. What am I, in the 5th grade? No, the 4th. I'm the 3rd grade. So I'm like 7, 8. I'm probably just old enough to understand the gravity of the situation. But still young enough to be fully inundated with whatever is going to be said. And so my dad comes out of surgery, one leg lighter. And I'm like, you know, me, my mom, my little brother wasn't born at the time. No, my brother was like 1. But so it's me, my mom, my grandma, and like 7 of my aunts. We can have an auntie team. Shouts to Kanye. And I just look at him. I'm like, hey, Dad, you know, what's up? Welcome. Like, you know, I don't really say much. I'm 6. And he just looks at me and my mom and he goes, well, we can park at the handicap spots and we cut the lines at Disney World. Let's go! Right? That's how you got to deal with life. That's how you got to do it. Being sad ain't going to grow my dad's leg back. Being sad ain't going to make Allied better. That doesn't help. I'm not saying you got to be positive when everything isn't. I'm not saying that you got to just fake happiness. But you gotta. There is almost no situation where there is nothing positive to look at. And that's how Allied lives. That's something that I took from my father, and then I took even more so from Allied. Allied has had that same viewpoint in whether it's, sure, maybe not as dire situations as where my pop, but when it comes to like his play or retirement or his or his team or the SPL in general, or when Allied was in a little bit tougher times, you know, whether it's personal or public, Allied always had that idea, and I took that from Allied, And I think it's very important to take that from Allied. But at the same time, we got to give something to Allied now. And every little bit counts. My man's Allied doesn't have health insurance. He's an independent contractor. You don't get health insurance as a contractor, right? That's just not something that, welcome to America. That's just how the world works. But as a community, we've been able to raise over 25 grand, which is very important, and that'll help Allied on his way to going through that. And DJ K says something funny, and there's actually truth in that. Now I don't believe in faking happiness in the sense that, like, I'm not going to be the, well, golly gee, how you doing on Doomsday, right? Like, I'm not that dude. But there is some truth to faking that sort of nonsense in the sense that it's very true. You guys have heard me speak about the power of body language before, where if you're going into if you're going into a job interview or something where you have to, like, be good or whatever, power poses will help you. Standing like this before your interview, right? Just like, I'm the fucking man. Like, that will help. The Superman pose, right? Like, that shit actually helps. It sounds dumb. It looks dumb. That's why you do it at home in front of your mirror, right? But it actually helps. It actually helps. It's a real deal. Totally true. There's science. So there is something to that. If you smile, sometimes you wind up with a real one. So Allied obviously means a lot to me, and I hope that we can do our job to I hope that we can do our job to help Allied out. So yes, DJ, I did a long time ago. Amy Curry is a very smart woman. She's a very, very smart woman. Not only but I also have read up a bunch on NLP and stuff like that. Not red pill bullshit. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is very fun. So, Shimdog, exactly. Sometimes it's just about finding the positives in life. Moving on to something a little bit more, hopefully, less bleak. As I said, Allied, when he gets better, will always have a seat on our commentary desk. He is a member of the team from now until forever, and nothing will ever change that. Allied came onto the squad and brought something a little bit different into the commentary booth. Obviously, as you can tell from the broadcast, he's his own brand of person. He's got that pro player, streamer, memer swag, right? He's got something else going for him. And he was also able to bring that behind the scenes as well. So with Allied no longer or momentarily out of the booth, because as I said, he will come back when he's better and he will be a part of the team. We do have to find some other people to lift the heavy load. Nobody wants week 7 F. and Adonis every game. Nobody fucking wants that. I'm well aware. So there is a look. There is a look for multiple people casting. Isn't he too young to get cancer? Nobody's too young to get cancer, unfortunately. We are looking for new commentary talent. I will say that one person is on point. One person has already been selected, if you will. And that is not yet public. And I fucking hate that. I hate that, well, I know and you guys don't, and that's annoying. And I hate when I have to do that, but unfortunately for a lot of different reasons, we're going to keep that on the low. But we do have one person already in mind, and the wheels are in motion. And like I said, not my favorite thing in the world to do, but I got to be that dude and keep that one close to the vest. Chapo, I'm not going to pick you up. You're too busy making money being a player. Go win in the SCL. But so, a lot of people have brought up different ideas, and I'm gonna shoot them down real quick. Get Golden Boy. I mean, Golden Boy works for Twitch. He's got a full-time job. Part of his job is to go ahead and part of his job is to go ahead and do different events, like how he hosts our analyst desk, and he slays it. But Golden Boy's got a full-time job over at Twitch, and you know, as far as his game knowledge, he's obviously not as knowledgeable as the other casters, which doesn't have any problem with him hosting a desk. I think that Golden Boy, I look up to and I learn a lot from Golden Boy. My fellow brown man from Queens. Love Golden Boy. Thanks for stopping in, Pixies. Golden Boy's got a job of his own. Golden Boy's got a job of his own. Shouts to the what face. Husey lives in fucking Australia. There's so many issues with that. I mean, Hindu Man's just getting his stuff sorted. He's in the UK. That's rough. So Husey, unfortunately, there's like red tape separating that. Gandhi has a full-time job at Hi-Rez being a designer. One, it's weird doing design and commentary. To be fair, Gandhi doesn't do game or god design necessarily. He does systems design, which is more like everything else, whether it comes to clans or season ticket stuff. Like that's Gandhi's in charge of all that shit. So there's that. Gandhi is not really a long time fix, but he has said that, you know, we might get some Gandhi. We'll see. We'll have to see how the future goes. Zayden is very, very important to the broadcast overall. Zayden can't cast. Zayden, a lot of people like Zayden's casting. I've never disliked it. But I gotta say, I like what he does for the company a lot more. So Zayden works a lot behind the scenes. And I appreciate it if you didn't like put that in my chat. And what Zayden is able to do is a lot of the glue that keeps everything together. We're talking database stuff that runs stats. We're talking behind the scenes picks and bans stuff. We're talking he's the technical director of the show. So switching to different cameras, the guy switching to different cameras, the guy talking in my ear in production, the guy doing everything outside of casting, graphics, and camera is Zayden. Sound guy, Zayden. Interview liaison, Zayden. Technical director, Zayden. Right? He's not a cameraman. Eric winds up doing that. Eric's our replay guy. He's not a graphics dude. Ray's does all the graphics. And SNK's the cameraman. But everything else is done by the homie Zayden. We lose Zayden. Nah. So homie's got to keep doing what he's doing. Dry Bear is a full-time designer for Paladins. He doesn't know Smite. Like, that's not going to work. So get a roar on the days that Eager's not playing. Word, you want to pay for a plane ticket? And that always makes me laugh. That always makes me laugh is when people are like, hey, you guys should hire pros. You guys are dumb. And it's like, dude, do you realize how much dough that would cost? Either to move them down or to fly them in multiple times a week? Like, what are you talking about? Nah, Chapo, you ain't too young to cast. If that's what you want to do, I say work on it. But stick to the trust me, stick to the player thing for now. So Dry Bear did well when he's at the table. Dry Bear was fun to learn with, but Dry Bear is definitely a better designer than he is a caster. Is he also the same person responsible for the city servers in Cali? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, who do you? I don't know, worst Jameer. Like I said, I would just direct you to customer support. I don't know, but for real, a lot of the popular options when it comes to commentary just like are an actual like realistic fixes. We do have somebody lined up, so there's that, and then we're looking for a second fix, and we'll evaluate that. Somebody mentioned Kret, and so Kret is not a caster. No, it's not a beer. It's just an energy drink. Kret is not. So Kret will not be a permanent caster. Kret is not a dude that will join the caster team full time. He is very much a big part of the design process for Paladins. With that said, Cret will be joining me on the cast this Sunday. So you got your two boys, you got the old band back together. This afternoon I will be casting with Cret, and it will be very exciting. He's too busy doing other real things to have a full-time job as a caster, but when it comes down to it, Cret will be casting with me today. I'm very excited. If you guys have been following me for a long ass time, I'm scrolling all the way down. If you guys have been following me for a long ass time, Cret and I have been a team for a long ass time. I'm going to pull up a picture of Cret and I from the launch tournament, and with that in mind, here's an old school picture. This is me and Cret many moons ago, about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. This is me and this is Cret. Cret looking like a fucking egghead and me looking a lot skinnier there. What a shitty tie. But this was like I said, 2.5 years ago, or 2 years ago probably, at launch tournament. And at this point, we had already worked together for the better part of a year. We've been working together for, I mean, probably the better part of a year is pushing it. Probably like 4 months. We were working together as commentary, mainly as a team. And we went in different directions, right? Like Cret went into the coaching and I stayed with the casting, but we've been a team forever. So it's definitely a big deal as far as us getting back together in the booth. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You guys get the really show back live. It's going to be super fun. And yeah, we did the season 2. We ran the Challenger Cup. Or no, it was season 1. Season 1, Cret, I, and Hindu Man were the Challenger Cup casters. Now, me and Hindu Man are the Pro League casters, and we invite Cret along for some fun. It should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for to be able to cast. So, why do casters need to live in Atlanta? You can just virtually cast from any location. That is, if you want to look like a fucking amateur show, yeah, totally, you can Skype in. But like, it's just so amateur. It's so lame looking. It's so amateur. And like, if you guys don't think the theatrics and the everything surrounding the realness of the show, like, if you guys think it's just show me gameplay, you're very wrong. You're very wrong. It's very important for the show to look good as well. And so like, you have two people. I mean, I wish I could find a old VOD. Let's see, Smite Pro, and we'll just scroll down and you guys can see, if you guys didn't tune into the earliest iterations of Smite, it just looks terrible. It just looks terrible. And also, not for nothing, being live is very important, because one, audio is one of the hardest things. Brennan left. Audio is one of the hardest things to really nail. To get good audio is really, really difficult in a live setting, let alone when you have an input from like Skype or Mumble or whatever the hell you're trying to do. A lot of times you gotta get video footage. You think my little, like, I have the best home, like, this is the Logitech C920 or whatever. This is the 1080p. This is the webcam, and it looks like shit. You know, you want to be like with a real camera and stuff like that. I love amateur, if you know what I mean. No, I don't. I would just rather have, you know, there's nothing worse than your caster. There's nothing worse than your caster disconnecting. I remember casting a match with Dry Bear, high res weeklies, and just going, all right, and, you know, they're coming down the lane, and they're looking for the fight. Well, here's the fight. The taunt comes in, blah, 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 blah. And then just like, all right, yeah, that was an exciting fight. Now, the reason the fight was won was because of this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. And then your co-caster has to, like, reconnect, and there's nothing more embarrassing when you're watching a professional stream and you hear doo-doop. Like, there's that, man. Like, that's very funny. So, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons to have people inside and whatnot. So, Zalo on Kiki stream? Yeah. Brandon had some DDoS issues. There's just too many issues with. There's just too many issues. Hold on one sec, guys. Oh shit.
Words.
$5
Thank you,
JP.
OJP.
Dude, that's pretty sweet. What was that, like half the goal?
That
All
was
right,
pretty,
you know what?
25K was pretty much our goal. That was
Actually,
like the last thing we ever had.
Actually, if we include,
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna host. I'm just gonna host.
We hit over 50K probably.
Yeah.
This is more important. This is more important. This is much more important. Allied is over at Kiki's house. They're finishing up the fundraiser. Allied showed up. This is the first time I've seen him out. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man suffering from cancer. This is a man suffering some like hardcore cancer.
He can hear you.
And he's smiling. He's having a ball. You know what I'm saying? That's the Allied I know and love. Every once in a while, you got to take a step back and realize that this is so much more than just video games. This is so much more than just competition. This is so much more than just esports. This is so much more than stream numbers and casting and what did this guy say on stream and what didn't this guy say on stream and Keemstar and Twitter and Twitlongers and Reddit and SPL and EU and NA and this guy and that guy and Loki and this. It's so much bigger than that. It's about the people involved. It's about the personalities. And I've been saying that for a long time. I want to get our players' faces on the screen. That's what it's about. I'm not out there rooting for Neath. I'm not out there rooting for Bastet. I'm rooting for Reels, and I'm rooting for Adapting. And this time around, I'm rooting for Allied. It's so much more than just esports. It's so much more than any of that. It's so much more than one person or one individual. It's about the camaraderie, the community, and coming together as a unit. Being positive when it means to, and being negative with a reason. Right now is one of those reasons. Right now is one of those moments to be positive. Take something from Allied. Look at the brighter picture. And just, well, that's not the face I wanted, but smile in the face of adversity. That's what you got to do. And that's what it's all about. I'm going to cut this short so you guys can hang out with Allied. And I will catch you later on for the SPL. 1 p.m. twitch.tv/HighResTV. Thank you so much, and I love you all.